The Mauryan Empire was the first centralized empire in India, lasting from the 4th to 2nd centuries BC. The Mauryan Empire was strong militarily and economically. A tax equivalent to 1/4 the value of the harvest supported the Mauryan kings and the government. Standard coinage throughout the empire fostered support for the government and military, and also promoted trade. The military consisted of infantry, cavalry, chariots, and elephant divisions. The Mauryan capital was located at modern-day Patna, where the Ganges River is joined by 5 tributaries. The Mauryan Empire collapsed in 184 BC after being weakened by dynastic disputes due to attacks in the northwest. In the 4th century CE, the Gupta Empire appeared and also had their capital in present-day Patna. However, the Gupta Empire was not as extensive as the Mauryan. Like the Mauryans, the Gupta exploited agriculture in the Ganges Plain and also controlled nearby iron deposits. They also charged a 25% revenue tax on agriculture, similar to the harvest tax of the Mauryan. The Gupta was not as centralized though. The military effectively controlled the center of the empire, but the outsides were mainly run by local governors. Gupta women saw a decline in their status during this period. They lost the right to own or inherit property, and also were treated like the lower-class peasants and workers. Unlike the Mauryan Empire, who had been mainly Buddhist, the Gupta practiced Hinduism. They brought back the ancient Vedic practices of reincarnation and karma. They believed that your karma, which is defined as the good and bad deeds you do in your life, would determine your next life. If you had good karma, you would come back as a higher class. Bad karma would put you lower, and possibly an untouchable if your offense was bad enough. The Gupta Empire came under pressure in the 5th century by the Huns from Central Asia. The Indian Ocean trade network extended across the Indian Ocean and into Asia in the South China Sea. Monsoon winds greatly facilitated trade. Trade was very diverse, and so it was less competitive than Mediterranean trade because everyone was selling different things. Families were split apart, and sometimes sailors would have wives in many cultures and children that were very cosmopolitan. Journeys would last months, and so sailors had to pretty much pack everything they owned and have no ties to any homeland. Boats used lateen sails to take advantage of the monsoon winds and sail against the wind. Africa was a very poor and isolated region of the world at this time. Other than Egypt, there were not any major civilizations that had appeared yet. However, the sub-Saharan trading system linked North and South Africa across the Sahara Desert. Camels from Arabia became the main route of transportation, and the camel saddle was invented. The main products being traded were salt, palm oil, olives, wheat, and animals. Arabs took control of trade in the north, which led to trade shifting to the Middle East. China was isolated from the developing civilizations in Mesopotamia, Egypt, and India. While there were ways for goods and people to travel between India and China, access to civilizations in the west was blocked by the Himalayas in the southwest, the Pamir and Tian Mountains and the Taklamakan Desert in the west, and the Gobi Desert in the north to northwest. The mountains made overland transport and communication difficult and slow. However, the Yellow and Yangtze rivers facilitated east-to-west movement. The Shang originated in the Yellow River Valley in the present-day province of Henan. Their control went north to Mongolia, west to the Gansu area, and south to the Yangtze River Valley. The Shang had frequent military campaigns, constantly pushing surrounding nomads back. The capital city varied from time to time. The last and most important one was near modern-day Anyang. Cities were centers of politics and religion. Cities were laid out in a precise grid pattern aligned with the North Polar Star, and had gates opening in all 4 cardinal directions. This orientation of buildings is known as feng shui. The writing system used by the Shang was made of pictograms and phonetic symbols representing the sounds of words. Only the educated elite were able to master this system. However, this system still endures today in China. Shang rulers and aristocrats worshipped their ancestors. Before making a major decision, they would use divination and oracle bones to decide which they should do. Possession of bronze was a sign of authority and nobility. Bronze vessels were used for religious rituals and sacrifices. In the 11th century BC, the last Shang king was defeated by Wu, the ruler of Zhou, a dependent state in the Wei River Valley. The Zhou is the longest-lasting and most revered dynasty in Chinese history, lasting over 800 years. Just as the Semitic people in Mesopotamia had adopted and adapted the Sumerian legacy, the Zhou preserved the essentials of Shang culture. The Zhou used the mandate of heaven to justify their seizing of power from the Shang. Mandate of heaven means the ruler has been chosen by a supreme deity and would rule as long as he was a good leader and good to the people. The Zhou separated religion and government and promoted the development of important philosophical systems. Sacred bronze items from the Shang period became family treasures. During the Zhou period, a sophisticated administrative apparatus developed. The Zhou built capitals in the western part of the kingdom, and all major buildings faced south to keep a harmonious relationship with the terrain. Like the Shang, the Zhou regime was highly decentralized. In 800 BC, the Zhou began to decline and moved to the east near Luoyang. In 600 BC, iron began to replace bronze, which was most likely brought by nomads. The wealth and power of the state were justified by a political philosophy known as legalism. Legalism is a philosophy in which harsh punishments and strict laws are used to make people behave. One aristocrat who became a major philosopher during the Warring States period was Confucius. Confucius was the founder of Confucianism, in which the state is a hierarchy just like a family, with ruler on the top. The basis of Confucianism is filial piety, in which there are 5 relationships: ruler to ruled, husband to wife, father to son, older sibling to younger sibling, and friend to friend. Confucius actually had little influence during his time. His teachings were made popular by his follower, Mengzi. Confucianism would become the core of the educational system for government officials. The Warring States period also saw the rise of Taoism. Laozi, the founder of Taoism, sought to stop the warfare of the Warring States period by urging people to follow the Tao, or path. He encouraged people to accept the world as it is, avoid violence, and avoid unnecessary actions. In Taoism, the only thing that matters is one understanding of the path. Not much is known about women of this time. However, Confucian thought symbolizes a balance of men and women. Only men could conduct rituals and make offerings to ancestors, but women could help maintain the shrines. These differences in male and female activities can be explained by the concept of yin and yang. The male principle of yang represented the sun, active, bright, and shining, while the female principle of yin represented the moon, passive, shade, and reflection. This shows the balance of men and women during this time. In the second half of the 3rd century BC, one of the warring states, the Qin state of the Wei Valley, rapidly conquered its rivals and united the warring states, creating China's first empire. Power soon passed to a new dynasty, the Han, who ruled China for nearly 400 years. Many inventions were produced during the Han era. Blacksmiths produced steel by liquefying iron and pulling it in